I think some important things have happened here. I think a floor has been put in the relationship. I think things stopped getting worse. And I think we have the building blocks of recreating at least a functioning U.S.-China relationship, which is very important for us, for them, and for the rest of the world.
Well, point out what in the past couple of years has not been functioning and what you think now that there is a floor in the relationship will start functioning soon, David.
Well, the most dangerous thing is ongoing disputes in the South China Sea and in the Taiwan Straits. You may remember that China lost an international court ruling that where they lay claim to most of the South China Sea, all the way to the borders with the Philippines and Vietnam and other allies of the U.S., really saying that is essentially part of their country and no one should pass through it without their permission. Also, the Taiwan Straits. They've determined that is what they consider an inland waterway, which is part of their country. And those are things, of course, that the U.S. strongly disagrees with, as does most of the rest of the world. And they've been conducting these Freedom of Navigation Acts, which have really rankled China because we've continued to sail warships through both the Straits and the South China Sea, and that's caused a lot of problems. That's actually one of the more important things that was accomplished here, the reestablishment of military communications. So I think the first thing that's hopefully off the table is some sort of miscalculation or accident or problem that results in an actual military conflict because of an accident in one of those two areas. That's something that's gone really wrong. Trade policy, other things about rhetoric in both political systems have been troublesome, but really the danger in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait has been my main concern.
So like a relationship that goes bad, you can have where the two individuals don't talk, or at least they're talking, and so you get to a better way. Is that kind of where we are with the U.S. and China right now?
That's exactly right. And they're talking at every level. You know, it's important that Biden and Xi sit down, but it's also important that the high-level officials sit down, middle-level officials, people up and down the trade and commerce arena, as well as the military arena. So communication and connection at every level is critical to avoiding a problem.
Panda diplomacy.
I was going to go there, Carol.
We laugh about the pandas leaving the U.S., been here for decades, now maybe coming back. Are we right to laugh, or that sharing of something that is native and unique to China so important and a big deal?
You know, I'm reminded of how important it was during the 1970s when we were first establishing contact with China, what they called ping pong diplomacy. And you can sort of snicker at the idea of ping pong players forming the basis of a relationship between two very large economies like this. But it is important to have those person-to-person connections and that sort of sentiment. Pandas are a part of the quiver of resources that China has, and I am glad for one to see them using it. But let's look for other ties between students and researchers and scientists and so on and so forth. That's what really can help. That's what helped build the original relationship and can rebuild it now.
But where are we with the panda diplomacy? Because what happened recently was China took back its pandas, and now we had Xi yesterday talking about potentially sending them back to the U.S. It seems like, I mean, was he using this for leverage that recently?
I think that the pandas are always on loan, as are art pieces and so on and so forth between different countries. So it is their right and prerogative to take them back. I'm not exactly sure what spurred that. It might have been a moment of national pride or something that led them to do that last year or just a few months ago. But the idea that he's opening back up to sending more pandas back to U.S. zoos, I think is an important next step.
Hey, David, what does the narrative or headlines get right about this relationship? What does it get wrong?
It's super complicated and very synergistic. We both need each other. We need them for a large workforce, the ability to produce things like iPhones and other pieces of technology that are in all of our pockets and on all of our desks. We absolutely need China for that. They need us to be part of the group that consumes their products and keeps their workers busy. We need them to buy our U.S. treasuries and things like that, and they need us to provide a place to put some of the reserves and the savings that they have in their country. So we need each other.
You know, I believe it was Arshanali Bosick in her conversation with Citadel's Ken Griffin this week, where he basically said, just imagine if TSMC just cuts off its supply of chips to the world. everything shuts down. Every production line shuts down. We talk about Apple, the close connectivity between the two nations, but you think about TSMC, it just, provides chips for everybody.
And that is actually absolutely the most critical part of the U.S.-China relationship going forward, Taiwan, and what happens there. We have stuck to a one China policy where we recognize just the government in Beijing and don't have official recognition of the government in Taiwan. We don't recognize China's claim to Taiwan, but we just don't talk about that. Xi, of course, says that he wants to fold Taiwan sort of back into the motherland, as he would refer to it. And apparently during the discussions, Xi said, look, peace is all well and good, but at some point we need to move towards resolution more generally. So I don't think, this is certainly not off the table. Maybe it's not pressing this month or this year or the next couple of years. But China does have their eyes on Taiwan, and TSMC makes that a super complicated situation for the U.S. as well as the rest of the world.